On to our next news. The Dalai Lama says he hopes to live beyond 130 years, extending his previous estimate by 2 decades. Speaking at a special prayer ceremony in Dharamsala ahead of his 90th birthday, the spiritual leader said he still has much to offer to the Buddhist faith and the Tibetan people. The Dalai Lama's remarks were met with applause from thousands of devotees who gathered from around the world to pray for his long life. He also reiterated that his reincarnation after his death would be decided by his own trust, not by China, which has insisted it should name his successor. Living in exile since 1959, the Nobel laureate continues to be a symbol of peace, compassion, and Tibetan identity, despite Beijing's efforts to control the future of his legacy. Now we are joined by guest for this discussion, Madhav Nalapat. She's editorial director. He's editorial director of Sunday Guardian, all the way from New Delhi. Thank you, Madam Nalapat, for joining us today. What impact does the Dalai Lama's long exile continue to have on the Tibetan identity and struggle for autonomy?
Look, the fact of the matter is that the Dalai Lama is the acknowledged spiritual leader of Tibet. His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso, is the acknowledged spiritual guide for all the Tibetan people, despite the frankly, being out of of Tibet, out of the country since 1959, because he had to escape the Chinese arrest dragnet that had been issued against him. The fact is that the Potala Palace since then is not the spiritual home of the Tibetan community. The spiritual home is where the Dalai Lama stays, and he's now staying at the moment in India, or if he goes somewhere else, but he's staying at the moment in India. So the spiritual, if I may say so, the spiritual center of gravity of the Tibetan people and the Tibetan Buddhist faith is always where the Dalai Lama is. And he has set up a succession mechanism to ensure that the correct spiritual leader and not some imposter chosen by the Chinese for his pliability will be selected. And only this committee has the right to choose the real successor of His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet, to choose the 15th Dalai Lama. So it's very, very significant, frankly, and he is extremely significant. He is the spiritual leader of the entire Tibetan community worldwide, including in Tibet, although many are now afraid to say his name or even have his photograph. Some people have his photograph clandestinely, and they'll be arrested and beaten up if authorities in China know they have the photograph. But the reality is the Chinese have not been able to stamp out Tibetan identity, and a good part of that reason is the presence of His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, and therefore only the Dalai Lama chosen by his council of elders and advisors, which he has set up, only that Dalai Lama will have a transfer of authority from the 14th to the 15th, as and when that very sad day comes, I hope not soon, when His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, is no longer with us.